Okay, so for today's video, starting a little series I'm calling Brewer's Cauldron, and we're gonna go over some of the decks that I have made from scratch. Um, this was my first commander deck that I made purely from cards in my collection. I didn't buy anything. I didn't, I didn't look up any lists on how to build a commander based around, or build a deck based around this commander. I'm a big fan of the Grixis colors. I was playing a lot of standard during Ixalan and uh, the other adjacent blocks, so I had a lot of cards I thought would fit, and I wanted to make a deck that was very on theme. And there are some cards in here that are not pirate themed and are just there to serve their purpose. But for the most part, this deck is pirates, sea serpents, vehicles, pirate ship vehicles, um, equipment that relates to being a pirate, and that's pretty much it. I think it's fairly powerful, it has a lot of different ways to win. If we look at the breakdown, we've got 36 lands, which is probably a little low. 14 artifacts, 25 creatures, 4 instants? No, wait, what is this? 4 enchantments? 14 sorceries, 9 instants, and 3 planeswalkers. I'm gonna guess that's what that means. You can see down here. Yep, that's what that means. Um, Here's our curve. We run a lot of 2 and 3 drops, but a fair amount of 4 and 5 drops as well, along with a handful of 6 and 7 plus drops. Um, I followed some basic deck building rules, like having enough mana rocks, having enough sweepers, trying to stay focused, having alternate win conditions, things like that. Let's back up so we can highlight our cards here. And whoop. So it has too many cards. I have over 100 in it. I need to cull some of the stuff in here. But if you're not familiar, Admiral Beckett Brass says is costs 1 blue, black, and a red for a 3/3 human pirate. It says other pirates you control get +1/+1. At the beginning of my end step, gain control of target non-land permanent controlled by a player who is dealt combat damage by 3 or more pirates this turn. So my first thought was, well, let's throw in a bunch of pirates. My second thought was, since pirates generally have effects, let's throw in ways to get them back so that our pirate, once we've made it to the mid game and a lot of our pirates have died since we're being aggressive, we have ways to bring them back to the battlefield or choose the ones in our graveyard that we want to bring out. Um, there are several alternate win conditions, I think 3 or 4. But as you can see by the names, these cards are largely pirate related. Captain's Hook is probably not the best piece of equipment that I could use, but I wanted to use it instead of, you know, a comparable equipment that didn't relate to pirates. Same with vehicles, just fell flagship, um, makeshift munitions, and our planeswalkers even. We have Jace, Cunning Castaway, Angrath the Flame Chained. I wish that was the version I had in the deck. It is not. And Vraska Scheming Gorgon. Um, so I tried to stay on topic with almost all of my cards instead of putting in something that would be, more optimized. But I think the deck is fairly focused. It is about $100, $110, less than $10 on Magic Online. So I think I'd say fairly budget for a commander deck. And then yeah, let's go through. So yeah, like I said, the basic strategy is to just attack with our pirates, get their enters the battlefield or when attacks triggers to get us some additional value, and then steal our opponent's best stuff with Admiral Beckett Brass because we get to keep those permanents even if they kill Admiral Beckett Brass, and we get to keep them the rest of the game. So getting her out and getting our attacks through early will make our opponents pretty upset. Um, let's go over the most expensive cards in the deck. We have really none of them are too much. Not very many. I mean, the cards that are over $1 are Thing in the Ice, which I thought fit ocean themed there. Good way to basically wipe the board while leaving us with a nice sea flavored attacker. Um, Nezahal Nezahal Primal Tide. Again, water based. Can't be countered. You have no maximum hand size. Whenever an opponent casts a non creature spell, draw a card. Discard 3 cards, exile Nizal, return it to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. So if we can make sure our hand is full, he has some protection. Jace Cunning Castaway. Whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player this turn, draw a card, then discard a card. That's something we want to be doing anyway. Uh, that's his +1. -2, create a 2/2 blue illusion creature token with when this creature becomes the target of a spell, sacrifice it. And his -5, create 2 tokens that are copies of Jace Cunning Castaway, except they're not legendary. So that really helps us with his first ability, specifically. Engrath the Flame Chained, our +1, he's 3 black and red. Our +1 is each opponent discards a card and loses 2 life. -3, gain control of target creature until end of turn. Untap it. It gains haste until end of turn. Sack it at the beginning of the next end step if it has mana value 3 or less. And then -8, each opponent loses life equal to the number of cards in their graveyard. So late game, if we can get this guy ultimated, that's pretty much a win. And then another alternate win con, Vraska's Scheming Gorgon. +2, creatures you control go +1/+0 until end of turn. That helps us. Her -3, destroy target creature. Her -10, which would be difficult to get off. Until end of turn, creatures you control gain Death Touch, and whenever this creature deals damage to an opponent, that player loses the game. Our other alternate win conditions are Mechanized Production. Enchant artifact you control. At the beginning of your upkeep, create a token that's a copy of that artifact. Then, if you control 8 or more artifacts, you win the with the same name as one another. You win the game. We're really relying on our treasure tokens here. You could definitely abuse this by creating more copies of, Dread Dusk Legion, Dreadnought, or, stronger artifacts, but I did not throw in, Blightsteel Colossus or anything like that. But creating a lot of treasure tokens is going to help us win because we also have a Revel in Riches. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, create a colorless treasure artifact token with tap, sack this artifact, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 10 or more treasures, you win the game. To support that, we have Trove of Temptation. Each opponent must attack you or a planeswalker you control with at least 1 creature each combat if able. At the beginning of your end step, create a colorless treasure artifact token. I believe those are all of our straight up win the game. Oh, and we also have Crush of Tentacles. Return all non-land permanents to their owner's hands. If Crush of Tentacles surge cost is paid, put an 8/8 blue octopus creature token onto the battlefield. That could help us late game. Brass's Bounty, for each land you control, create a treasure token. So if we can get this out while we already have um, Mechanized Production or Revel in Riches, we're going to win on the spot. The land base is nothing to shake a stick at. We run just about as many of my... Oh, I forgot I was going to go over the cards that cost more than $1. We have Bonus Hunger, Ascend. If you control 10 or more permanents, you get the City's Blessing. Each opponent sacks a creature. If you have the City's Blessing instead, each opponent sacrifices half of the creatures he or she controls, rounded up. I wanted a fair amount of sweepers in this, since we are looking to swing in, and particularly one-sided ones. Vraska's Contempt, exile target creature, planeswalker, you gain 2 life. Crush of Tentacles we mentioned, Brass's Bounty we mentioned. Stoneforge Masterwork, equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each other creature you control that shares a creature type with it. Almost all of our creatures are pirates, so that is going to be very strong for very little mana. Crack my drink here. We're going to have a... What is it? Truly Vodka Seltzer, Pineapple and Cranberry. The lady was demoing at the store today, and like I said in a previous video, I'm a sucker for the demo people, so she asked if she could take a picture of me with holding my case. I was happy to oblige. Yeah, that's good. Thought Vessel, you have no maximum hand size. Add a colorless to your mana pool, or add a waste to your mana pool specifically. Treasure Map, pay 1, tap, scry 1, put a landmark counter on treasure map. Then if there are 3 or more landmark counters on it, remove them and transform it, and create 3 colorless treasure artifact tokens. Tap, once it's flipped, tap, add a colorless to our mana pool, tap, sack a creature, draw a card. So that we're going to be making a lot of treasure tokens throughout the game, so this can be drawing us cards that we need to win, such as our alternate win cons, etc. Chromatic Lantern, lands you control have tap, add 1 mana of any color, add 1 mana of any color. Again, not totally on theme here, but pirates would use lanterns, so I felt it was a good inclusion. Vanquisher's Banner. When it enters, choose a creature type. Creatures you control of the chosen type get +1/+1. Whenever you cast a creature spell of the chosen type, draw a card. So we're gonna be drawing a lot of pirates. Mechanized Production is also fairly expensive at 10 something, and Revel in Riches also 10 something. For lands, we have Canyon Slough. When it enters the battlefield, tapped, but we can cycle it, so that's good later in the game. Cascade Bluffs enters untapped and gives us a waste, or we can pay a blue or a red and then add blue, red, or red. Helps us fix our mana a little bit. Cascading Cataracts, indestructible, tap, add a mana. Pay 5, tap, add 5 mana, and any combination of colors. So if we are stuck on blue-red, we don't have our blacks or whatever, we'll be able to cast what we need. And then Fetid Pools, it enters the battlefield tapped, it cycles. And then Hello Clem. Thespian Stage, add waste, and then pay 2, tap. Thespian Stage becomes a copy of target land, except it has its ability. So if our opponent has Manlands or Field of Ruin, or they're playing really good utility lands, we get to steal it, which is nice. And that is it for cards that cost more than $1. Everything else is fairly cheap. As far as the pirates go, we have Dire Fleet Captain. When it attacks, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each other attacking pirate. Dire Fleet Poisoner, Flash Death Touch. When it enters the battlefield, target attacking pirate you control gains +1/+1 and gains Death Touch. Fathom Fleet Captain, Menace. Whenever Fathom Fleet Captain attacks, if you control another non-token pirate, you may pay 2. If you do, create a 2/2 black pirate creature token with Menace. Kitesail Freebooter. When it enters the battlefield, your target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a non-creature, non-land card from it, exile it until Kitesail Freebooter leaves the battlefild. Sigiled Starfish, not a pirate, but starfish are in the ocean. Let's scry 1, 0/3 blocker. Stormfleet Aerialist. Flying raid when it enters with a 1/1 counter if you attacked with a creature this turn. We're planning on attacking every turn. 2/2 with Stormfleet Swashbuckler, 2/2, and it has double strike as long as we have Ascend. So with our lands and our treasure tokens, we're almost always going to have Ascend. Thing in the Ice, when it enters, it's 0/4 Defender. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, remove a counter. And then if it has no ice counters on it, transform it. When this creature transforms, return all non-horror creatures to their owner's hands. So, probably a pretty one-sided board wipe, leaving us with a big attacker and tons of pirates in our hands to be able to cast and trigger their abilities. Warkai Marauder, flying whenever it attacks. Target creature defending player controls loses all abilities and has base power and toughness 0/1 until end of turn. Captain Lannery Storm, she has haste, 2/2. When she attacks, create a treasure token. Whenever you sack a treasure, Captain Lannery Storm gets +1/+0 until end of turn. So we can use this later in the game if we're not going to win with one of our alternate win cons or they've been countered, but we still have a lot of treasures. We can swing with her. Hopefully on a turn our opponent is tapped out, sack a bunch of creatures, and just get in a ton of damage. Forerunner of the Coalition. When it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a pirate, reveal it, shuffle your library, then put it on top. Whenever another pirate enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses 1 life. This could definitely be a win condition for us. Lightning Rig Crew. Tap. Deals 1 damage to each opponent. Whenever you cast a pirate spell, untap Lightning Rig Crew. So sort of the Thermal Alchemist of the pirate tribe. Stormfleet Spy. My mouse is a little weird here. When it enters the battlefield, if you attacked with a creature this turn, draw a card. Deadeye Brawler, Death Touch, Ascend. Again, we're almost guaranteed to have Ascend. When Deadeye Brawler deals combat damage to a player, if you have the City's Blessing, draw a card. So this is just going to keep all of these. We have a lot of card draw. We want to keep sure we're playing pirates every turn, digging for our alternate win cons, etc. Deadeye Quartermaster. When it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for an equipment or vehicle, reveal it, put it in your hand, and shuffle your library. We have a handful. Fell Flagship. Pirates you control get +1/+0. When it deals combat damage to a player, that player discards a card. Sleek Schooner. It's the 4/3 crew 1. Dusk Legion Dreadnought. 4/6 with Vigilance and crew 2. So, where is it? Or an equipment. So, equipment, we have Stoneforge Masterwork. We have Captain's Hook. Enchanted creature gets +2/+0, has menace, and is a pirate in addition to its other creature types. When it becomes unattached from a permanent, destroy that permanent. And I think that's it for equipment. Deadeye Rig Hauler. When it enters the battlefield, if you attacked with a creature this turn, you may return target creature to its owner's hand. So we can use that to play one of our pirates again. We can get something they played off the battlefield. Dire Fleet Neckbreaker. Attacking pirates you control get +2/+0. Dreamcaller Siren. Flash, flying, can block only creatures with flying. When it enters the battlefield, if you control another pirate, tap up to 2 target non-land permanents. So that can stop our opponent's big swing turn. Marauding Looter is raid, so at the beginning of your end step, if you attacked with a creature this turn, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. Rowdy Crew, Trample. When it enters the battlefield, draw 3 cards, then discard 2 at random. If 2 cards that share a card type are discarded this way, put 2 +1/+1 counters on Rowdy Crew. So very likely that we are discarding 2 creatures. Does Pirate count? I'm not sure. Deadeye Plunderers gets +1/+1 for each artifact we control. This could late game be massive. Pay 2 blue and a black. Create a colorless treasure artifact token. Stormfleet Arsonist. When it enters the battlefield, if you attacked, target opponent sacks the permanent. Nizahal Primal Tide we went over, and then Slinvoda the Rising Deep. When it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, return all creatures to their owner's hands except for merfolk, krakens, leviathans, octopuses, and serpents. And again, another sort of one-sided board wipe. And we don't mind our pirates coming back since a lot of them have effects when they enter the battlefield. We went over the planeswalkers, and then spells. We have lots of ways to tap our opponent's creatures, destroy their creatures, field wipes, and then ways to bring things back from our graveyard. So, Gridlock, tap target X non-land permanents, March of the Drowned, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand, return 2 target pirate cards from your hand. Opt, everybody knows that one. Selective Snare, return X target creatures of the creature type of your choice to their owner's hand. We could use this against a token deck, because they go to their hand, but they then get destroyed. Or we could use it to bounce a bunch of pirates back to our hand and play them again. Chart a course. Oops. Draw 2 cards, then discard a card unless you attacked with a creature this turn. We're almost always going to be attacking. Lightning Strike deals 3 damage to any opponent. Oops. Siren's Ruse. Exile target creature you control, then return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. If a pirate is exiled this way, draw a card. Often going to be a pirate. Walk the Plank. Destroy target non-merfolk creature. Destructive Tampering. I keep right-clicking. Choose one. Destroy target artifact. Creatures without flying can't block this turn. This can be a game winner for us if we have a field full of pirates. Fiery Cannonade deals 2 damage to each non-pirate creature. Again, another one-sided sweeper. Golden Demise. All creatures get -2/-2 until end of turn, but if you have the City's Blessing, instead only creatures your opponents control get -2/-2 end of turn. So, another one-sided wipe. Exile target creature with power 3 or less. Return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Draw a card. Repeating Barrage. Deals 3 damage to target creature or player. And then if we attacked this turn, pay 3 and red. Return it from our graveyard to our hand. Secrets of the Golden City. Draw 2 cards if you have the City's Blessing, which again we are going to. Draw 3 cards instead. Vona's Hunger. Send, again, we're going to have it. Each opponent sacks a creature. If you have the City's Blessing, instead, each opponent sacrifices half the creatures they control rounded up. Diabolic Tutor to help us find our one-off win cons. I know people don't like tutors in commander decks, but I felt it was okay to throw one in. Pirate's Prize. Draw 2 cards, create a colorless treasure artifact token. Vraska's Contempt. Exile target creature or planeswalker, you gain 2 life. Gruesome Menagerie. Choose a creature card with converted mana cost 1 in your graveyard. Then do the same for creature cards with converted mana costs 2 and 3. Return them to the battlefield. A good way to get back, once we've been aggressive in the opening game, we can use some of these cards to turn our graveyard into sort of a toolbox. Unfriendly Fire deals 4 damage to target creature or player. Crush Tentacles we went over. Brass's Bounty we went over. Artifact. We have Renegade Map. Enters the battlefield tapped. Search it, or sack it. Search your library for a land. Reveal it. Put it in your hand. Shuffle your library. Stoneforge we went over. Cranial Archive. 2, exile it. Target player shuffles their graveyard into their library. Draw a card. This is good against graveyard decks, but we could also use it on ourselves if we need to make sure we get some of our cards again. And we have so much card draw that we're likely to see quite a bit of our deck every game. So if we've used our cards and had some of our win effects countered, or we think we need one of our key pirates back, this is a way to at least give us a chance. Pillar of Origins, as it enters, choose a creature type. Add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. Spend this mana only to cast a creature spell of the chosen type. We would obviously choose Pirate. Ratchet Bomb, put a charge counter on it. Tap, sacrifice Ratchet Bomb. Destroy each non-land permanent with converted mana cost equal to the number of charge counters on Ratchet Bomb. This is another answer for token decks, but we could just leave it out and kind of threaten our opponents with the fact that we're continually putting charge counters on it, so we can kill a lot of their late game bombs. Thought Vessel, you have no maximum hand size. Add a waste to your mana pool. It would be great to get this out. I should probably run Reliquary Tower too, because we have things that return a lot of our stuff to our hand, so that would be a good addition. And then Triskaidekaphile would be another nice alternate win con that we could use. Treasure Map, we went over. Captain Silk, we went over. Chromatic Lantern, we went over our vehicles. Seer's Lantern, an inefficient mana rock, but tap, pay 2, and scry 1. I thought it was worth it. Went over those again. And then our lands. We do not have anything too crazy. Blighted Cataract, add a colorless, pay 5 a blue, tap sack, draw 2 cards. Canyon Slough, Cascade Bluffs, Cascading Cataracts, Choked Estuary, can come in fast. Crypt of the Eternals. We gain a life and we can add 1 of any of our mana color to our pool. A little bit of filtering. Desert of the Fervent, enters tapped, but it has cycling. Glorified, same deal. Mindful, same deal. Dimir Guildgate, he could be replaced by a better land. Dismal Backwater could be replaced. Evolving Wilds, Fetid Pool, Cycling Land, 3 islands, Majoring Network, add a waste, pay 1 tap, put a storage counter on it. Tap, remove any number of storage counters, add that much mana for each storage counter removed that way. So we can use that to play Gridlock, and I think that might be the only X mana spell we have in the deck. But it would also help us play Brass's Bounty or Revel in Riches or something like that. 3 mountains, a Painted Bluff, add 1 mana of Filter Land, but add 1 mana of any color to your pool. Rakdos Guildgate, Shimmering Grotto, another Filter Land, basically the same thing as Painted Bluffs. Skyline Cascade, enters tapped. When it enters the battlefield, target creature an opponent controls doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. So that can be very good to lock down one of our opponent's bigger threats. Survivor's Encampment, add a waste, tap an untapped creature you control, add 1 mana of any color. A little bit of fixing there. 5 swamps, Saltwater Cliff, Temple of Malice, we get the Scry effect, Terramorphic Expanse, Thespian Stage, we copy, we already went over that. Transguild Promenade, enters tapped. When it enters, sack it unless you pay 1, and then add 1 mana of any color, and 1 Unknown Shores. Tap, add a waste, pay 1, tap, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. So that's basically it. We need to lose 5 cards. I know there are some optimized cards we could put in here. But yeah, I've done very well with this deck. It's fun to play, and it's on theme enough that though you do have some cheap win conditions and you're stealing your opponent's stuff, that's what pirates do. It makes sense, and they can't be too mad since you aren't playing a super optimized list. I think it's fun and it's on theme more than it is good and optimized. But yeah, that is the deck. Let's go to the stats. We have 28 creatures. We have, how do I read this? Instance, we have about 7 Sorceries, you have about 14. Artifacts, you have about 14 as well. Enchantments, we have very few enchantments or planeswalkers. I think 3 to 4 of each. Let's do a sample hand here. Let's do new hand. So would we be able to play this right away? Colorless Land, Temple of Malice, and a Chromatic Lantern. I would probably play that. Doesn't have a great strong start. Let's do a new one. Island, Mage Ring, a lot of our bigger cards, Vraska, Recover, Stormfleet. Yeah, pretty expensive. Um, the curve could probably be worked on a little bit. The mana base could definitely be worked on a little bit. I think the rest of the deck is pretty solid. And I think it's just fun to play. Here, I'll read this. This is a semi-unfinished deck I built completely from cards from my collection with the goals of being nearly completely on theme while still having a solid construction and multiple paths to victory. Our goal is to be aggressive with our pirates to trigger our commander's ability, and then use our recursion to turn our graveyard into a toolbox after we've aggroed a bunch of utility creatures into our graveyard. We are trying to keep our opponents on their back foot through combat until we can assemble our alternate win condition combos, like Revel in Riches, Vraska Scheming, Gorgon, or Mechanized Production. What I think keeps the deck from being too try-hard is our price and our insistence with staying on flavor. There are much better versions of cards in this deck with no pirate flavor, and that should ease your table's salt level at least somewhat. Should our alternate win cons failure be foiled, we can just win with combat damage, since we will likely have our opponent's best permanents, and cards like Gridlock to tap nearly the entire table and beat our opponents down. I need to skim a few weak cards out and probably add a few more land for consistency, but kitchen table wise, this is a punchy, multifaceted deck with several ways to close out the game that won't break your bank, all while aggressively staying on theme. Have fun. And yeah, so that's the deck. Let's go to our visual view again. And you can see the whole deck. Yeah, if you want to play a pirate themed deck and you want to play something fun that's not going to make everyone at your table incredibly mad, or you're playing with new players, this is a great deck to pick. So I think that's pretty much it. And yeah, bye.